I have a table full of visual aids this time.
Nice.
Yeah.
That'll be good. That'll be good. That's a yawn, Milo.
He just had an accident.
Yeah.
I had a long day, so yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, nap for life.
Well-deserved nap.
Oh, now it's muted. I think they muted everybody. Good.
Okay.
Video's off too.
Hey guys, make sure you mute yourself.
You weren't muted. Can you mute, please?
It's muted now, Mo. I told you that you just muted.
No, you said they just muted everybody.
They did.
No, she said she just muted herself.
No, they muted.
But she said she just muted herself.
What, baby?
Hey, Bontemps family, we can hear you.
You're the only one we can hear, but you're.
I thought we were muted.
That's okay.
Yelling about being muted.
We're talking about being muted, yet we're not muted. Okay.
All right. Everyone's muted so far, so welcome, guys. Thanks for making it a priority tonight. I'm Becca, for those of you that don't know me, or if there's some parents on that haven't met me personally. Nice to meet you virtually. This is my dog, Brownlee, who does a great job as my my meeting co-counsel. First of all, I wanted to talk about just adapting our diets to quarantine, because that's been a big source of concern for a lot of athletes. It's probably the number one question I've received on social media and just inquiries in general when I reach out to all my athletes and clients. And then we'll kind of talk about each food group. What is each food group? When to have it? What are examples of each food group and good choices that we can make there, and then just kind of talking about hydration and sport specific fueling. So that's kind of an outline of what we're going to do today. So first of all, what changes do you need to make right now to prevent weight gain? Because everyone knows you're not nearly as active as if you were swimming and going to school and maybe taking PE. So one thing I did want to quickly point out is that calorie restrictions are not recommended. Just in general, we don't want to ever recommend athletes go on a calorie cutting or a weight cutting, extreme diet or regimen. I'm not a nutritionist. I'm a health coach. So again, we do want to make sure that everyone's fueling and eating enough. That's not the point of this meeting, is to tell you guys to not eat enough, right? So generally the, health organizations suggest 2,000 calories a day. That's a pretty general number, but you really don't want to go below that. I don't know a single athlete I've ever coached that goes below 2,000 calories a day. So if you're somebody that likes to keep track of things or was wondering, that's kind of your baseline. Don't go beneath that. Definitely need more when you're active. So the first point that I want to make for adults and kids is that during this weird time of quarantine, we want to maintain meal stability. So that means eating breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And if you're going to do one of the dryland workouts I sent out, maybe a snack before that, or to tide you over between meals. But we do want to make sure we're kind of maintaining meal stability. What gets weird is if you sleep until 10 and then you don't know what meal to eat, just start with breakfast. Start with a breakfast item, even if you don't like cereal, maybe have an egg or, whatever, but start with breakfast. And then, a few hours later, eat lunch, whether it be 1 or 2 o'clock, and then eat a dinner with your family. Okay, so maintain meal stability. While your energy output may be a little lower, your metabolism still requires that you eat regularly. Okay, so I'm telling adults this, I'm telling athletes this. Maintain your meal stability. We do want to avoid snacking, and that's something that we want to avoid even when we're not in quarantine, right? Snacks are where we get all the unhealthy sugar and salt and fat, so you want to kind of cut that out. If you need a quick power up, before a dryland session and it's not mealtime, grab a quick fruit, okay? And we'll get into some more specifics later, but avoid snacking and eat your meals like regular. Help with cooking. I don't know if you guys can, participate in it all, but I mean, how many of you guys do know how to cook? Can you unmute yourself and let me know? Anyone out there cook? Do any of you guys participate with the fam?
Yes.
Yes, I got one. Rowan, Do you help your mom cook?
Yeah, sometimes.
Okay, so you guys do know your way a little bit around the kitchen, but I didn't hear an overwhelming, resounding yes. So try to participate. You know, it's a good time. Eventually, you guys are going to go to college, believe it or not, and you're going to need to know how to feed yourselves. Mom's not just going to put down a plate of food for you. And the reason why I say to help with that is then you'll feel invested. If Julia knows that she's going to make spaghetti with her family, she's probably not going to grab a sleeve of Oreos at 4 o'clock, sit on the couch, and then not eat that spaghetti dinner she's going to help with. Okay. So before we talk about quantity and quality, let's just get involved emotionally, right? Invest in what you're eating and, you know, watch a cooking show on the Food Network. I know you guys have time to do that. And if there's something you really, really love to eat, ask your parents if you can, you know, help them make that. I'm sure your parents would enjoy that participation from you and with you. Okay. Last thing I want to make a point here with the quarantine cooking is to add color to each meal. This is a really easy tip. So if you're eating breakfast and you're having toast, instead of maybe like jelly and all that good stuff, maybe spread some avocado for some green on there. Or if you're eating a bowl of fruit, chop up some, you know, or eating a bowl of cereal, chop up some fruit, throw that in there. You know, now you've got blue and red strawberries and bananas and all that. So if you can add color to breakfast, and then at lunch, maybe a few carrot sticks with your slice of pizza. If you're having frozen pizza, even that's a step better than just having, you know, just pizza. So if we can round out our meals with color, there's a good chance you're just going to make a quick, healthier choice right there. And it's pretty pain-free, right? Everybody likes strawberries, and you know, even like a sliced red pepper with a sandwich is going to help. So add color, eat your meals, avoid snacking, and help with cooking. Those are the tips that I want you guys to take away with quarantine and how you guys can be a little healthier right now. And those are simple tricks. Before I move on, does anybody have any questions or more concerns about their quarantine lifestyle right now before I move on? Okay, so next we're going to talk about food groups. What are they and what do they do? So there's 3 food groups that we're going to talk about. Protein, which helps you guys build muscle, okay? So that'd be something like an egg, or it's a little bit, there's some in peanut butter, or like a protein supplement, okay? Chicken, fish, meat, those are all protein sources. And protein is all for building muscle and repairing tissue. So what we want to do is after our workout, we want to get that in right away. And that's where something like chocolate milk or a protein shake, those are really quick, simple things to have right after practice. And you want that within 30 minutes, like ASAP. That doesn't have to be dinner. But after, you know, a dry land session right now, or when we get back to practicing, that's when you want to eat protein right after your workout, okay? 30 minutes is the rule of thumb, so you want it in right away. That's why liquid form is typically easiest, but, you know, if you want to throw some eggs onto a plate after you do a dry land session, go for it. Athletes need 1 gram per pound of body weight at a minimum. So if I weigh 120 pounds, I'm trying to get 120 grams of protein. There's 6 grams of protein in an egg. So if I were to get it all from eggs, do some quick math there. How many eggs would I have to eat? 120 divided by 6. Anybody? It's a lot of eggs. Okay, it's like over a dozen, right? So that's why, you know, I'm careful to lay out, you know, I always have a scoop of protein in a day, a couple eggs. I put peanut butter in my apples, all those things so I can build muscle. Okay, so I'm shooting for 120 grams of protein each day because I weigh 120 pounds. So do some quick math in your head. Look around at the foods you eat. Tuna, canned tuna, that's another quick and easy way to get some in. And there's 18 grams per serving there. So that's a heavy hitter. That'd be a good one, right? Questions on protein before I move on to carbs. I'm covering it quickly, but if you guys get it, then there's no need to hang up on it. Everyone's good on protein? Anyone vegetarian or vegan in the group where they can't have meat? Okay, so tofu is a really great protein source, and then you're going to really have to rely on supplementing as well, because we have a vegan in the senior group, so I kind of wanted to, touch on that. All right, let's talk about carbohydrates. Who knows what carbohydrates are good for? Anyone?
Is it good to carb load before your races?
Kind of. We'll talk about that. So, especially when we get into fueling. But carbs are good for energy, so that's why everyone's like, "Oh yeah, let's carb load." However, carb loading is kind of a thing of the past. Obviously, you want to make sure you're eating good food before a race, but that doesn't mean to stuff your face with pasta and things like that the night before. I actually recommend people eat pretty normally before a race, or, if there's certain foods that give them a stomach ache, maybe avoid those. Because what happens is if you overconsume carbohydrates, they're actually stored, they're broken down into things like glucose, etc., and they're actually stored as fat. So we don't need to overdo it on the carbohydrates. I don't know if you guys have seen the episode of The Office where Michael eats a whole plate of fettuccine Alfredo and then he throws up when he's running. That's what we don't want to do. That's an example of how not to fuel and carb load efficiently. So yeah, the day before you want to make sure you're getting things like maybe some whole grain bread or brown rice. So eating carbohydrates specifically the day before a race is great, but as long as it doesn't give you a stomach ache, you guys should be fine, But carbohydrates are where we get all of our energy, okay? So a couple points to make about carbohydrates. Some foods have a high glycemic index, which means they're basically like candy, and some foods have a lower glycemic index. So apple and banana, both of these are carbohydrates. And a banana is going to spike your blood sugar, which means it's got high glycemic index. It's kind of like a piece of candy. You could eat that and your blood sugar would shoot right up. Whereas an apple is what we'd say is low glycemic. So if you eat an apple, your energy is going to kind of rise over time. So that's why I'd say, you can choose one if you're really low on energy and need a quick spurt right now. Say Coach Tori is going to give you guys a sprint workout, grab a banana. Or if you're in between races and you're a sprinter, this is probably a great thing to have. If you're somebody that maybe does a little bit more of endurance efforts, or you are on your way to practice and your stomach's feeling good, you want a little snack there, and practice is going to be a little bit more endurance based, maybe grab an apple. Both of these have X amount of grams of sugar, but they affect your body differently. Does that make sense? Hopefully. Okay. So that's carbohydrates. Some carbohydrates, they'll shoot your blood sugar up. Some carbohydrates, they'll kind of steady rise it over time. Another example while I'm on the topic is like whole grain bread versus white bread. White bread's a little bit more like the banana versus the apple was a little bit more like, whole grain bread. And that's why whole grain, everybody loves whole grains. They're a little healthier, a little bit more fiber, but they also don't, spike your blood sugar up, okay? Any questions on carbohydrates before I move on to fat?
Yeah, Shah asked in the chat there, is wheat okay?
Let's see. Is wheat okay? Yeah, unless you're gluten intolerant, I eat wheat probably every day. It gets a bad rap for inflammation, and that's why a lot of people like going on a no dairy, no wheat, sometimes no animal product diet. So if it doesn't give you any complications, then yeah. If you're somebody that eats like a bagel and maybe gets a tummy ache, you might be gluten intolerant or maybe have a bad reaction to wheat. So it kind of varies from person to person. Again, I'm not a nutritionist, but I do eat bread. I do eat wheat, and I'm a really high performing athlete. So it can cause, some people do say it can cause some more inflammation than if you were to say eat gluten-free bread or wheat-free bread. But that's going to be personal preference. I eat it, so I can't knock it. Thanks for bringing that up, Tori. I got the chat up on the side now. Perfect. Okay, so do you guys want to talk about fats? This is my favorite food group, actually. All right, so fat is important for cell growth, protecting your organs, and actually reducing inflammation. And you guys know inflammation, right? We're athletes, so after we work out and our muscles get really big, Sometimes our body suffers from some inflammation. That's why we get sore. But fat can also be used for energy. Say Coach Tori gives you guys a 1,000 meter yard warm up, right? And you're working pretty easy. That's actually where your body can use fat as a fuel source. Okay, so not only is it important for cell growth and protecting your organs, but it can be used for energy when you're working at a lower intensity. And a lot of times fat gets a bad rap, but it just kind of depends on what that fat is. So something like peanut butter or avocados, it's kind of like carbohydrates. They all affect our body differently. Cookies and peanut butter affect our body differently, but they both kind of fall into that fat, kind of category. So choose wisely. Avocados, almonds, what else? Some good examples. Olive oil, olives, cashews, cashew butter, peanuts, peanut butter, all those things are fats. Okay, so those are good fats, and we want those ones. What we don't want is like fried chicken and fried chips. Those are bad forms of fat. Those are saturated and trans fats, which we don't want. Yes, peanut butter does have both protein and fat in it, which is why it's kind of a great source of energy and nutrition for athletes. So good points there. Again, good fats are going to be your poly and your mono unsaturated. Those are kind of big words. But those ones can be found in avocados and like she was just mentioning on the chat there, peanut butter. Your bad fats are going to be your trans fats like fried foods and chips. Consuming good and bad fats impacts your cholesterol, which is something you guys will worry about more when you're grown-up adults. But you want high HDL cholesterol and low LDL. Think H high. We want that to be good. And LDL is your bad cholesterol. Okay, so those are all of our food groups, our proteins, our fats, and our carbohydrates. Ideally, in a perfect world, whenever you sit down for a meal, you get one of each three. So, like at breakfast, I think most people are just kind of used to pumping our bodies full of carbohydrates right when we wake up. But if you kind of level that out with some fat, like I mentioned, a piece of toast with avocado or a piece of toast with peanut butter, now you're getting protein, carbohydrates, and fat. And it's just going to digest a little bit better. Your body can use all those nutrients a little bit more efficiently. Plus, it's going to keep you more full longer. And it kind of what's something we call satious. Kind of, it's like, oh yeah, that felt good to have that. Versus a bowl of Captain Crunch, which will kind of just make you sleepy within an hour and you'll probably be hungry again. Same thing goes for lunch. Instead of just like a slice of frozen pizza, can you add in carrots or, if you're having a turkey sandwich, maybe you can put avocado on there or some, drizzle some olive oil on your veggies, something like that. So we want protein, fat, and carbohydrates ideally at every meal. And then in our snacking, we want to make sure that it's going to be something appropriate to our exercise. So if we're going to be doing a high intensity practice or low intensity practice, things like that. Okay? Questions on our 3 food groups? My bananas are starting to go bad. They're starting to look like a science project. Okay, let's talk about fueling a little bit then, which is kind of a weird topic because we're not really racing or practicing super hard. So really quickly, how many of you guys are active each day? I want to hear lots of unmuting and raising of hands.
Me.
Yes, very good. You lose Kai tomorrow? Where's Kai at? Is he in there with you? Hi, Kai.
Me. I'm active too. Hi.
Good. Okay, so fueling, I'm going to refer to that. That's something that I have grown to be a queen of in the sport that I do, which is triathlon. If you don't fuel correctly, you will fail, okay? So fueling is something I pride myself in knowing a lot about. So whether you're doing a 6 a.m. practice or your usual 4 p.m. practice, or right now, your dry land workouts, what you eat right before you work out or right before you race will affect your performance. If Rowan eats a slice of pepperoni pizza and then tries to do my interval cardio workout, she's probably not going to feel great, right? but maybe that's a great choice as a reward after she PRs in her 50 back. Okay. So, you know, I never say no food is off limits, but there's right and wrong times to eat it. Hey, if she were to eat a turkey sandwich before a dryland workout, she probably still wouldn't feel that great, even if it's a healthy food choice. What you need to look at is carbohydrate-based foods right before you work out. I mean, like, you know, we're talking 45 to 60 minutes beforehand that digest well, that increase your blood sugar at the right time. Something even maybe like Gatorade, maybe if you're just sipping Gatorade, if you're going to do an interval workout. Things like that. What you have right before you train and race will affect your performance. So we do want to kind of keep that to the carbohydrate group. Somebody like me, I actually do really well with a little bit of protein. So my favorite pre-workout snack is half a banana with 1 tablespoon of peanut butter. And that works for me. Or if I'm going to do, like yesterday, I had a really hard run workout. It was like an hour and 15 minutes, and there was all sprints. It's like if Tori told you guys to do 50 times 25 yards all out. That's kind of like what I did. I had an apple right beforehand and a bunch of water because I knew I needed energy throughout that entire run session. And that just digested really well for me. So I can tell you guys all these great facts, but until you start looking at, hey, this is what I'm going to eat before practice or a dryland workout, this makes me feel good, this makes me not feel so good. It doesn't sit well. I was hungry halfway through the workout. I couldn't focus, things like that. Some people do great with a Fiber One granola bar, or I don't know, some people do good on nothing at all if it's an early morning practice. All I want you guys to look at is, what are you eating now? And how does it make you feel? Because if it doesn't make you feel strong and really awesome during your workouts, it's not the right thing. And it'll take a little time. I've been doing this for like 20 years, so I've gotten pretty good at it. But that's the biggest topic I wanted to bring up. Again, swim meets. I know that sometimes you guys will have an event and then you'll have 30 minutes and then another event. And it's really hard to figure out what you need there. And that's why I was talking about those fancy words of high glycemic versus low glycemic. If Rowan goes and, you know, I'm just saying Rowan because I know her, sorry. I mean, this could be any of you guys, but if she does her 50 backstroke, and then she's got to do the 100 free in 30 minutes, I would say choose the banana or even half of it, just a little burst, or maybe even a sip of Gatorade. Let's see, who's a distance swimmer here? Shout your name out. Distance.
Me, Shah.
Okay, perfect. Say Shah has the 500 in the morning, and then he's got a long time, but he's got like the 1500 or the 1650 in the afternoon. Now, he's going to need a little more energy than Rowan did, right? Because he's going to be burning fat as some of his fuel source. He's got more time to digest. Maybe he's going to choose the apple with peanut butter, right? Or something even heavier as long as he's got enough time. So you've just got to look at how long you have between events and what type of events they are. And you know where you guys can practice all of this stuff in terms of fueling? Practice, okay? So before I do my races, I do a simulation, you know, set where I fuel and hydrate just like I would during a race. And then I know exactly what to have and when. Sometimes I'll pop a fuel, you know, you guys seen those little packets of sports gels. Sometimes those are great within, you know, 15 minutes of a race too. So let's take a little time to talk about what to eat during a race, during a meet, because I know you guys eat like garbage, a lot of you guys, and it's kind of disappointing. So let's talk about what you're eating now, or, you know, just certain scenarios where you weren't sure what you should have, because that's where I can help you a lot. So who's got one?
So usually between like prelims and finals, I'll have rice or something like that's high carbs. Mm-hmm. And is that good to eat after a race to build up your energy again and have it for the later session?
Sure. I mean, especially because rice probably sits really well, I'm guessing. Is that why you chose it? Yeah. So, and it could be white rice or brown rice, right? Probably white rice if it, yeah. And afterwards, yeah, and you could choose like a higher fiber option like brown rice, but then you'd want to pair it with either tofu or some chicken or salmon. You want to pair it with protein, and then fat, because that's where you're going to need to rebuild your muscle for the next day or the next race. And you're going to need that fat as well for your cell growth and reduce of inflammation. So it's great before, but it's also great after. That's a really good point to bring up, Rowan. Good before and after, but after is when you have the opportunity to pair it with like a protein and a fat to prepare you better for next day, because then you don't have to worry about how it's going to sit. Does that answer your question pretty well? Perfect. What else? What are some other things you guys eat between races?
I have eaten, well, you've been giving me little packets of almond butter with some apples. Oh.
And how's that feel?
It works, kind of.
Well, almond butter's a fat, and it's got some protein in it. So those two food groups, fat and protein, that's why I usually recommend them after. But again, sometimes people like me can have them beforehand. Those foods can, especially almond butter, because I know I've had experience with it, it can cause side stitches. If you're not experiencing side stitches, then don't worry about it. But protein and fat take a little longer to digest. So that's why most people stick to the rice that Rowan mentioned, or just fruit. If it feels like it's sticking to your ribs a little bit and could cause you a tummy ache or a side stitch or a tummy cramp, it might be too much. So, or it's too close to your race event. So that's a great thing to have, as long as the timing is right and if it makes you feel okay.
Well, it's normally on those events that are, if I have time, like an hour or something.
Yeah, absolutely. So I would just advise you to make sure the timing is right with that. That's one thing I'm really careful with whenever I do protein and fat before. As long as you have enough time to digest and it feels okay, absolutely. Because that's why it's really individual. Nutrition and fueling is so individual. That's why I really just wanted to hear from you guys here. Almonds, dried mangoes, and granola bars. Yeah, those are all, like, dried mangoes, super high glycemic. So those will spike your blood sugar. So I love those as a snack. And you want to make sure you have the right amount. You don't need a lot of those. Almonds, again, is going to be protein and fat. So as long as your body has enough time to digest that before you race, absolutely. And then granola bars, for the most part, those are going to be fine. Some people struggle with like a chocolate chip granola bar before they race or train. It can kind of sit not well. So sometimes people like a fruit-based bar, something without chocolate or peanut butter in it, because sometimes those have an adverse reaction. So all those things are good as long as the timing's right and it feels good. Do you have to eat breakfast? Yes, I would say yes. Do you guys eat breakfast before meets or not really? Yeah. I usually suggest oatmeal the morning of, and I usually try to eat like 3 hours before a race. You guys might be more like 2, depending on if it's a really early race, but that 3-hour time frame will give you time to digest, go to the bathroom, make sure you've got, enough fuel in you, and then you can always kind of pop that blood sugar up with a gel or a banana or a fruit snack like that. So try to eat a breakfast about 2 or 3 hours beforehand. That way you don't feel like you have to go to the bathroom too close to the race, or that you don't have enough energy. So I definitely recommend oatmeal on a race day, something I have a go-to of. And then you can always have a snack, right before your race if needed. I think nuts are great. You don't need a ton of nuts. So a handful the size of your palm, that's all you need. That's it. That's 1 serving. So nuts are great. Again, you want to make sure you're not having them too close to practice or a race, because they take a while to digest. They have protein and fat in them, which just takes longer to break down than carbohydrates. So your body can break down carbohydrates really quickly. And that's why they taste so good. No, I'm kidding. Everybody love carbs. Okay.
So what is your take on, I know you had kind of mentioned it already, but like those Cliff blocks or the Cliff shots, I tend to give those to my like high school swimmers, not so much these guys because they're younger. But yeah, what is your take on those?
I'm a huge advocate for sports gels and blocks. Some of them even have caffeine in them, which I personally love. Those are kind of depending on the person, but they're good before. They are quick sugars. They're high glycemic, so they're gonna get right into your bloodstream right away.
Right.
And so they're good, right before. If it's a sprint session, you don't need it if they're going to be doing like 1,000 repeats aerobically. Like that's
Right.
not a good use. If you want your body to use fat for fuel there. But before a race, especially a sprinters and distance swimmers, they're going to fuel a lot differently. So that's going to make a difference right there. But yeah, 15 minutes before is a good time frame to have a sports gel or the blocks. But yeah, I use those often, so I'm a fan of those in the right situation. Mm-hmm.
And those blocks come typically 6 to a pack. And I usually tell the kids don't take more than 1 or 2 at a time. Is that what you'd recommend?
Yeah, so you really only need 1 or 2. I don't know what each block's serving size is, but usually anything that's in the 60 to 100 calorie range.
Yeah.
About what you need before.
Okay.
Everything, you should be good after that. And because your body does store carbohydrates, so it'll use stored carbohydrates as well. So
what would you say then is a good age if they wanted to use those? Is it like 13, 14 or what? Any age is fine? Okay.
Yeah, like I would say I only know of this group who is, I know Rowan's a sprinter, so I would say she could get away with it. I don't know anyone else here that sprints per se. I don't know off the top of my head, but yeah, especially the sprinters and like an anaerobic based workout, you want to make sure you have plenty of carbohydrates topped off, and that's what those blocks will do. They'll just notch that resting blood glucose up so you can use it right away.
Great. All right, thanks.
Yeah.
What do you think about like coffee or like high caffeine or energy, right? Like probably 15 minutes or 20 minutes before your race.
It sounds like you had some experience with that because very detailed. Just be careful with it. Caffeine is something where once you start, you can only increase from there. So if you're used to having, say, a shot of espresso, the only way to get a better effect from that is if you have more espresso more regularly, like you're just going to keep needing more and more and more because your body will adapt. So caffeine is a great supplement. It's a legal stimulant, which means we're allowed to have it, but it's known to be addictive. So you just want to be careful. If you don't need to be drinking caffeine, don't drink it. I joke around about a lot of kids your guys' age that are drinking Starbucks like recreationally. Not good. What caffeine does is it actually kind of gets your adrenal system up and going, which is why it's great 15 to, I would say, even 45 to 60 minutes before a meet or race or a really, really hard practice, like a key practice. But if you are drinking that throughout the day, all you're doing, this is why a lot of adults struggle with it. If you're just constantly bringing yourself up with caffeine, you're kind of shooting this like fight or flight response to your adrenal system, which can cause sugar cravings, weight gain, dehydration, etc. So caffeine is kind of a double-edged sword. It's good because it gets you up and at it, but eventually, if you're not careful, you're going to need more and more and more of it, and it can shoot your adrenaline system a little bit. So 1 shot of espresso, 30 to 60 minutes in that time frame before a race. That's great if your stomach can handle it. Some people, it makes them have to go to the bathroom. So that's not good. As long as if you've messed around with the timing and it works for you, you're good. But that's where you want to practice that, Rowan, that timing. The Clips box, a lot of them do have caffeine in them, but it kind of depends on the milligram dosage. So, I mean, I have gels that have 100 milligrams in them. So that's like a kick in the teeth, right? So I actually only have like a half of one of those unless I'm racing, and I'm in a dark place, and then I'll take the whole thing because I can fuel while I race, remember. Yeah, blocks, a lot of them do have caffeine in them. You want to look at the dosage. So like 1 cup of coffee, I think is around like 50 milligrams off the top of my head. And like a shot of espresso. So you want to kind of stay in the 20 to 50 milligram range, I would say, to be safe. 100 milligrams, then we're talking some serious caffeine right there. But 20 to 50 milligrams are, that should be okay. And I don't think you guys need to be drinking coffee or espresso unless you are racing. So if you are Starbucks people, know that it should be considered a treat and that you do not need it. because you are young and you should have youthful energy. Any questions about caffeine? Yeah, tea also has caffeine though. So green tea and black tea, those are just as high, especially black tea, as caffeine. It's just like drinking a cup of coffee. And again, all that stuff is fine in the right situation. So if you're about to race, great. But if you're not about to race or practice, all it does is dehydrate you and gets your adrenal system up and going and kind of fries you a little bit. So we don't need you guys getting old and haggard too early. Okay, questions? Any other questions on caffeine or what to have between races? I'll give you guys time to think if you want, because then we're going to talk about hydration.
Are you able to put together maybe a small list or something, things that they should have, for sprinters and for distance swimmers between races, depending upon how much time they have? Because it's really hard, for us as coaches when they have 15 minutes between some races and then 2 hours between some others. And then they go from a sprint event to a, 400 IM. It's a little bit hard to tell them exactly what's
going on for you guys as coaches too, that it's hard for you guys to have to look at that. So that's
right.
The swimmer's responsibility. So yeah, I've made a packet before. I don't know if it was for just the seniors though.
I think I have it, but yeah, it needs to probably be condensed a little bit. Maybe I'll go through that and do that.
Well, and that was probably for a different age category too, but you make a really great point that it was not designated to different distances. So I'll look for that too, Tori. That's a good point to bring up.
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah. Do you guys pack your own snacks, or is that something your parents do? You can either send that to the comments or shout it out. I don't care. Depends. Well, I know a lot of you guys rely on other places, a lot yourself. Okay. I would hope that you guys would start taking some responsibility for yourselves there. Okay, good. Perfect. Because unless your guys' parents were swimmers, they don't really know, how could they know besides the feedback that you give them? So start early by taking some responsibility for what you're going to have, because honestly, it's not your coach's fault. If you're hungry before a race, it's not your parents' fault. It's 100% your responsibility. And you're all old enough to know you need to eat healthy and eat the right things. So good that you guys are stepping up there. Okay. So let's talk about hydration. Swimming is like a super weird sport to talk about hydration with. And this is really the last thing I wanted to talk about. And then we can kind of just have some fun and talk freely. Swimmers are different because like me, like as a runner, when I sweat, I get dehydrated. So I know to drink more water. Swimmers, when you're swimming and you're in colder water, like at King or whatever, sometimes it's hard to remember you do need to drink water. And know how much, electrolytes, I don't know if you guys know what electrolytes are or salt to have. You do sweat and adapt a little less than other athletes that aren't in the water all the time. So hydration is still important, but you want to make sure you're having the right amount and not too much either. So you can overhydrate and underhydrate. You want to be right in the middle. You want to be perfectly hydrated. So you're going to get a kick out of this. The best way to tell if you're hydrated or not is to actually look at your urine. And you want that to be light yellow to mostly clear, okay? So that's the number one way to tell if you're hydrated or not. I have an example of water. So this is, 1 liter? Yeah. So you should be drinking water throughout the day, and then throughout your practices or your dryland workouts right now. Maybe you're noticing you're more thirsty these days just because you're sweating differently outside of the pool or whatever. But I usually try to drink 2 of these and then a bottle per hour for every exercise that I do. So if I'm riding my bike for an hour or swimming for an hour or doing dryland for an hour, I try to also drink a bottle of water. So this is kind of like 2 of these per day, plus each hour that I'm exercising, I try to drink just a sports bottle of water. For those of you that are heavy sweaters, that is where you're going to want something like a Gatorade, a G2 or a Powerade Zero, or something with electrolytes like a noon hydration supplement. That's going to get the electrolytes that you lose when you're sweating and the salts back in. Some people just put a sprinkle of salt into their water too, and that's just like a simple way to do it. So that's hydration. The number one thing is 2 liters per day, or a bottle per hour of exercise. Make sure that your urine's light yellow to clear. If you drink caffeine, you should also have a cup of water. So 8 ounces of water for every serving of caffeine that you have, because it's a diuretic, which will make you go to the bathroom more, which will then cause you to be dehydrated. Any questions there?
So since we're in the water and we're supposed to be drinking water, I do notice that like it's hard during certain sets because you don't have enough rest time to get your water bottle and have water.
Yeah. Like a sprint set, you're just not going to be able to. And that's fine. Again, swimmers are unique in the sense that they adapt in studies. They adapt a little less than if you were, say, running those sprints outside and sweating profusely. So there is a little difference in swimmers. So you can do that sprint set and then hydrate after, and that's fine. You have to be realistic. There were times during I played college soccer, I couldn't just go to the bench and get Gatorade if I wanted to. I had to wait until I was off the field. So there are times when you're not going to have access to water. That's why going into practice, if you're hydrated, you'll do better in those sets. Versus if you were to go into practice a little dehydrated and then you do that sprint set, you're going to be at a deficit. Does that make sense? That's why you want to make sure you're hydrated going into practice and races. Yeah.
So with the water, isn't there, you don't want to have too much of it before. It's like, how would you know if you had too much water to prevent cramping or something along that line or is there a certain time?
I don't have a lot of people that struggle with overhydration. But if you're somebody that's, a lot of times this is a person that isn't as aware of themselves, so they'll just be drinking water a ton, and then if you go to the bathroom and it's like water, I mean your urine's a really good indicator of where your hydration's at. Hyponatremia is when you are overhydrated and you can feel kind of sick from that, but it's not,
because sometimes when I'm running I'll get a side cramp from drinking the water too much or something. When I drink while running, sometimes I get a side cramp. I don't know why.
So usually people get cramps for other reasons other than, it's usually because somebody was dehydrated going into the session. And if you're drinking water and there's a bunch of water sloshing around in your stomach, that might be uncomfortable. But the more accustomed to running you get, the better you should feel there. I do doubt it's from drinking too much water. That's not something that most people get cramps from. It could just be like if you drank a lot of water in the pool at practice, like you were like, getting chlorine in, and then you drank some water when you got out of the pool, and then you go to run, you're just kind of feeling heavy. That's probably why running after swimming can cause cramps too. So it sounds like there might be other issues behind the scenes on that. But the number one thing I can tell you guys is when you go to the bathroom, that's how you know if you're over or underhydrated. Like it's like light yellow. And if you know that you were drinking like an excessive amount of water, then you might be overhydrated, but chances are you're not. So did that answer your question? I feel like that didn't really, I kind of just talked in a big circle there.
Yeah, I was just been recently when I've gone on outruns during this quarantine. This just happened. So. Yeah.
Side stitches are common for people that just aren't used to running quite as much. It could also be from your effort level. So make sure you're going out really easy. Make sure you're hydrated before going and that you fueled well. If you've had peanut butter or almond butter beforehand, sometimes those can cause cramps. And just try to relax when you're running. I post about that a lot on social media because I think a lot of people get stressed when they run. And you guys I always tease you guys in practice. I don't know if you remember, but I always tease you guys for you guys are definitely water animals, and now you have to be land animals. And that's a hard, metamorphosis to make. I would encourage you to breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth as regularly and as deeply as you can. And a lot of times that can cause the cramp to go away. Yeah, and if you're not dehydrated, you should be okay. The cramps probably aren't coming from your water intake, though if you feel like you're uncomfortable when you're running, you could maybe just ease off about 30 minutes beforehand.
All right.
Powerade at practice. It does have carbohydrates in it. It's a lot like Gatorade. So it's got carbohydrates, or the fancy way of saying it is glucose, which is basically like table sugar. They just charge more for it when they put flavor in it for Gatorade. So what's nice about Gatorade or Powerade is that there's the sugar, yes, but they do also have salts and electrolytes in it. So if you're a sweater, it's good for you. The key is how much you need, and do you need it at all? I would say you don't need it at every practice. You need it. You can drink a supplement with calories in it during like a really long or a really hard practice. For example, if you guys are doing like a taper workout where you're only in the water for an hour and doing really light dry land, you definitely do not need to be drinking Gatorade there. That's just gonna like oversaturate your blood with sugar. Like, you shouldn't need it. If you're doing like a 10 times 100 HbA or something like that, a little Gatorade beforehand, that might be great, but you don't really need it after if you're doing an aerobic pull set to recover, for example. So that's fine that you're having Powerade and Gatorade, but ask yourself if you really need it too, because that is sugar in, and that's training your body to use that quick sugar right away. So if you're doing an endurance or an aerobic effort, I would encourage you to use maybe just water. But that's getting really down to the nitty gritty details. Powerade and Gatorade are great because they have those quick carbohydrates, salt, and electrolytes. So it's fine to drink. I think it's a fine sports drink. You don't need to have too much of it. You definitely don't need it after practice. You definitely don't need it during the day. It's kind of, for me, it's kind of reserved for special occasions. I'll have it when I'm racing, when I have a hard workout or a really long workout and I don't want to eat calories during it. Things like that. Does that answer that question, Julia? Yeah.
Yes.
Good. Okay, so 10 minutes left. Any questions about dry land? I forgot to have my carrot and my pepper out. These are good, quick, easy ways to add color. You could have just one carrot stick with your lunch or a slice of red pepper. I know one of my friends eats it like an apple. It's a quick way to this is where you can get a lot of your vitamins in. The senior group did ask me a lot of questions about vitamins. So really quickly, vitamins A through E are just good to have in general. I am honest in the fact that I don't take any vitamins at all. I never have taken vitamins and I probably never will. So yeah, that's something, I mean, I've always just been really successful without them. Most people like a multivitamin in fish oil, and vitamins A, B, C, D, and E. Those things can all help you with reducing inflammation, energy, proper cell metabolism, all that. My husband, he takes vitamins all the time, vitamins A through E and iron. Multivitamin fish oil, I take none of them. I don't do well with it. Rowan's mom has tried for several years to get me to take them, and it's very hard for me. So it's great if you take them. You can also get them from all your food sources, not quite as much as if you were to supplement, but that's where we can get a lot of our vitamins and minerals from, is colorful fruits and vegetables. So I've gotten all my points in now. Any questions for Coach Becca? I know you guys miss me yelling at you and doing crazy workouts with you. And my music, of course. Any questions on dry land? Anyone have a favorite dry land workout that they've done so far that I've given them that you really liked or really hated? This is a test to see if everyone's been doing what I've said.
Cricket.
Actually, it's funny because I was thinking about Shah the other day. And I was like, I wonder if Shah has been doing. All right, well, if you guys don't have any questions, then I mean, that's all I can say. I just really want you guys to be aware of what you're putting in your bodies and how it makes you feel. Cycling does count, and actually that earns you points in my book because I am a cyclist, so that is good. But you should be working on your core as well. So at least tap into some of those core workouts I gave you. You guys are going to lose swim fitness. At this point, it's like obvious. You've been out of the water. You're all going to go down there. But you can stay aerobically fit by doing things like Shah said, cycling, running. You can keep your core strong and your shoulders strong with the dry land stuff I gave you. So you really don't have any excuses when you get back into it because everyone out there is in the same situation. When we get back to swim training, because we'll really be able to tell who made this their priority and their lifestyle because you'll be able to get in the water and recover quicker. You'll get your fitness back more quickly, and you're going to feel healthier and more confident. And those are the things that we want to inspire you right now to do. You don't have to be swimming, but you should be taking care of your shoulders. You should be activating your core, and you should be exercising just to be a healthy and happy kid. Those are things that you're going to carry with for you as adults. So if there's any parents out there listening, I mean, hopefully this is something you guys can all engage in together. Anyone that's stuck inside for the amount of time that we are, you're bound to struggle with things like depression, feeling down, lack of confidence. Exercise will help with that. Eating healthy, eating your meals regularly, helping your family cook together, good camaraderie there. Those are all things that are going to help prevent, corona depression, coronavirus 19, weight gain 19, all that funny stuff that's been going around. I mean, just making this your lifestyle, that's something that's going to carry into when you guys are adults, and that's the biggest thing. So awareness and healthy rituals to make you guys feel like the strong athletes and humans that you are. So if you guys don't have any questions, I do have all the points that I went over. I have in a Word document, so I can send that to Tori, and if she wants to send that out to you guys, she can. And then we'll work on getting out a sprinters, mid-distance, and distance kind of fueling suggestion for when you guys get back to racing, which is hopefully soon. Anybody been swimming in open water? I figured you had rowing. Good. Well, maybe you guys can get some wetsuits and get out there. If there's any parents listening, do parents have any questions right now? Or
Yeah, I don't know. It's just, maybe I'll go swimming when I go fishing again. Swim after the fish instead of using a rod.
Yeah, there's been I live on a lake. A lot of people have been fishing. The water temperature is awesome right now. A lot of water temperatures like 60 degrees. So if you guys are safe and have a wetsuit and parent supervision, then absolutely, but definitely do not do anything without parent supervision. Handstands are good for shoulder rotator cuffs. It could be. So if you do it against a wall, you can help build some shoulder stability, but you want to make sure you have your shoulders packed in and your core engaged. Otherwise, it'll actually kind of like compress your discs and be bad for your mid back actually. So as long as you have a nice tight diaphragm and your shoulders are packed in, that's one way to do an easy shoulder pack. If you have your arms here and just pull your shoulders down, that's called a shoulder pack. So handstands can help develop some stamina and stability in your shoulders. So they're not bad to do, granted in the right situation, which Rowan, you're probably in a position where you'd be okay to do some handstands as long as you work on your core engagement. But yeah, good for your rotator cuff is kind of a hard thing to say. I think they can help with your stability and your stamina as long as you do it the right way. Then you won't mess your back up. Swim in puddles, Shah? That's ridiculous. Stop it with that. Get out of here. Okay, well, I'll let you guys go. If you don't have any other questions, thanks for being here. And if you have any questions, you guys can email me, or parents can email me. Yeah, maybe we'll do a post on Instagram or something, Tori, with this. This was fun.
Yeah, sounds good. Thank you so much, Becca. We appreciate it.
Yes, you guys have a awesome rest of your night, and we will see you soon.
All right, see ya.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Is